Okay, so now you know the difference between an ionic, a metallic, and a covalent bond. Now we are going to write and name these bonded formulas, and we'll start with our covalent compounds. So when you are naming covalent compounds, you first have to determine that the compound is covalent. So you got to look up the elements on the periodic chart and make sure they're two nonmetals. Covalent compounds typically will not be made of more than two, and there will always be two nonmetals, right? We remember that from earlier. All right, so you will first name the compound by naming the first nonmetal, then the second nonmetal with an IDE ending. Then go back and assign prefixes. So we're going to go over what the prefixes are. Now, typically when we have two, like as we write this out, it'll make more sense in a minute. But when we have two vowels that are put together, like two O's or two A's, we'll drop one just because that makes no sense to have two O's and two A's next to each other. All right. So for instance, when you have carbon, carbide, nitrogen, nitride, oxygen, oxide. See how I'm adding that IDE? All right, so these are non-metal IDE endings. All right, this is pretty much all the non-metals. So you can use this slide, maybe take a picture of it or circle it in your notes. You can use this to help you as we go forward naming these compounds. All right, so the prefixes that we're putting essentially have to do with the number, okay? So if I write OH, it is assumed that there is one oxygen and one hydrogen. If I write H2O, then that is letting you know there are two hydrogen, because the two is after the H, and one oxygen. If there's only one, we're just gonna leave that there. So how would I name water? H2O. Well, I would say hydrogen oxide, and then I would go back and say there's two hydrogen, so dihydrogen oxide is water. All right, so let's name these compounds. So this is 1, 2, 3, tetra is 4. So again, this would be like if I have H4O2, which I would never have because I'd reduce it, but just for instance, okay? So tetra would be 4. You'd put that in front. These are prefixes. Pre means you're going to put them before the chemical name that has that number. Penta is 5, hexa 6, hepta 7, octa, nona, and deca. All right, so here is your process. This is like a formula. So if you follow this formula, you will be able to name every covalent compound. Number 1, name the first non-metal. All right, so again, I'm going to use hydrogen dioxide. So H2O is what we're gonna just start with. All right, so name the first non-metal. I'm going to write hydrogen. I wish I had my pen. All right, hydrogen. Now I'm going to assign a prefix based on the elements in the subscript. I have 2, so that's dihydrogen. So I'm going to put that prefix at the beginning, dihydrogen. Then I'm going to name the second nonmetal, oxygen, but I'm going to make sure with its I name. So oxide. All right. And then if that second element has one, like I don't have anything here, so it's assumed to be a 1. If it has a 2, 3, or 4, you need to add that appropriate prefix. So here are some examples. First one, nitrogen and NO2. So we say nitrogen, and there's no prefix here. See, nothing's here. So it's assumed 1. Oxide, that's oxygen with its IDE ending. And then, however, there are 2 oxygens, so we got to add di before the oxygen. So this is nitrogen dioxide. All right, next one. N2H4, nitrogen hydride. Remember the IDE ending. All right, now I'm going to go back and add my prefixes. So nitrogen has 2, di. Hydrogen has 4, tetra. So this is di-nitrogen tetrahydrochloride. All right, so pause this video and see if you can complete these. All right, let's do these together. So this is phosphorus. And this is oxide, remember. We have 2 phosphorus, so diphosphorus. I shouldn't have capitalized that, right? And we have 5, so pentaoxide, diphosphorus pentaoxide. All right, next one, chlorine, and I can capitalize that because nothing's going to go in front of it. And then because it's 7 is heptaoxide. All right, tellurium. And I can go ahead and write that with a capital T because there's no subscript here. And it's chloride. And because there's 2, this is dichloride. So tellurium dichloride. All right, silicone. Nothing here, so I don't have to worry about that. This is fluoride, and there's 4. And 4 is tetra, so tetrafluoride. All right, so now we know how to name them. Can we go the opposite direction? And can we see diphosphorus pentoxide and know that this is the formula? So in order to write formulas correctly, you have to first identify the type of compound. Again, covalent compounds will always have a prefix on the last name of the compound. So that's how you're going to know if it is a covalent compound. Number 1, you're going to know because, again, 2 nonmetals. Again, if you see 2 nonmetals paired together and one of them has the last one has a prefix, you know that it is a covalent compound. All right. So they're actually pretty easy because they are going to tell you exactly what it will be. So carbon tetrafluoride, carbon is C, fluoride is F. That you get from the periodic table. All right, now carbon doesn't have a prefix here, so that assumes that there is only 1 carbon, so you leave it alone. Fluorine has tetra in front of it, and we know from previous that tetra means 4. So the formula is CF4 because we never use the subscript of 1. So if there's only 1, we just leave it as 1. All right, so let's try sulfur dioxide. Sulfur is S. We know that there's 2 because this is dioxide, O2. All right, nitrogen and oxygen are going to be our 2 elements. Tri is 3, penta is 5. So chlorine, monoxide. Now, typically we don't say that there's a 1, but we do say there's a 1 when it is the end, when it's the second element. But we're not going to write the 1, so we're just going to put ClO, chlorine monoxide. All right, diphosphorus heptafluoride. So we know phosphorus is P, fluoride is F, di means 2, hepta means 7. You need to be able to do covalent compounds both ways. Write out the full long name or give me a chemical formula.